Hi folks, welcome back to Stonebrook Farm. Back in episode 1, we said we were going big. Not halfway, not someday, and today, that promise just rolled through the gate. Last time at Stonebrook, we started with nothing but an empty field and a dream. No money, no machines. Just work, day by day, thanks to local employment and contracts. But remember what we said in episode 1. When we said we were going big, we meant it. After weeks held up in customs and quarantine, the first of our fleet has finally cleared. These aren't rentals, they're the real deal. And they're about to help change everything here at Stonebrook Farm. There's something special about that first start. The sound, the vibration, the smell of diesel in the morning. It's not just machinery, it's momentum. These big tractors mark the start of Stonebrook's next chapter. Now we can handle serious work, larger contracts, more efficiency, and the chance to finally build this place into something real. We'll get the truck and low loader parked up and get ready for the next job. Before we put these tractors to the test, we're keeping our side work steady with Arrow's employment and education mod. It's been our bread and butter while we waited, working shifts for local production sites, hauling, loading, and earning every cent. We are going to do a stint at the carpentry production site. The employment mod adds a layer of realism, the kind of steady work every farmer knows well. It's not glamorous, but it keeps the lights on. It's late in the evening, so we'll head back to Stonebrook and make a fresh start in the morning. Hopefully we can put the tractors to the test right away. With a little money in the bank and 2 big tractors waiting, it's time for our first real contract. And it's a big one. We've just taken a liming contract on Field 24, one of the bigger plots around here. Perfect for putting our new machines through their paces. And because this map is massive, we're bringing in a mod that's going to save us a ton of travel time. AutoDrive. Let's get down to the vehicle shop and prepare for this liming contract. We may need to lease the spreaders and purchase the lime, but the reward from the contract should more than cover these costs. Once we reach the field, we can then take a look at how to use AutoDrive. Now with the tractors here, we'll lease the spreaders, purchase the lime, and head to Field 24. Here we are, at the field. Firstly, we need to set up a loop route that the tractors can use to enter or exit the field while working, at a convenient point. Open the AutoDrive interface, click on the exclamation mark to open the edit mode, and then right-click on the record route to get a 2-way course. Run the route then, around the outside of the field, watching out for any ditches. Then to close the route, click on one node, then on the adjacent node to make it one-way. Then repeat in the opposite direction to make it 2-way. Simples. We'll do this with primary and secondary routes to ensure they are complete. Once that's complete, we need to make entry and exit routes using the secondary route option. We'll use this area, as it is large enough to allow for the potential of multiple vehicles moving in and out. Just going to remove predefined entry points and start recording from the road. Holding the Shift key and then clicking the left mouse button starts a one-way secondary route. Once off the road, we can create a two-way secondary route to two potential entry and exit routes from the field. To do this, we hold the Shift key and right-click on the mouse button. Then, at the end of these potential entry routes, we need to connect them to the two-way loop route. We have to add a primary route node to each of the secondary routes for each direction to ensure vehicles will drive onto this route. To do this, we can use the interface, or holding the control button and right-clicking the mouse adds a single node. Connect these then to the previous nodes in the directions we want. Then we connect them by clicking on the last node, click on a corresponding node on the loop route, and then we can scroll the mouse wheel to create an arc onto it. Meant to say this at the beginning. The main difference between primary and secondary routes in AutoDrive is that vehicles will always aim for primary routes. Therefore, it's sometimes better not to have them driving around fields, when we may be simply driving them between locations, for example, loading or delivering. The final part is to set the locations. Simply select a node, click on the location icon, and type in a suitable name for the location that we will then use. Here, as it is a contract, we can create a contracts folder and add the new location to it to help distinguish from the others. The great thing about AutoDrive is its versatility, so don't be afraid to experiment with the different types of routes. And on a large map like Courtright, it will ultimately assist us in bringing Stonebrook to the homestead it should be. Finally, we can then create one-way secondary routes for entry and exit routes to the field. There's a little future-proofing here, should we ever get to purchase this field. Finally, we can then test the routes. And as we mentioned, we can't teleport, so we need to drive back to the shop to send the 2 tractors back to the field, where we can then use Courseplay to get the contract completed. See you back here shortly. Now that we're set up on site, we're going to run 2 spreaders at once using Courseplay, another essential mod for big operations. Courseplay allows us to plan precise fieldwork courses, sync multiple vehicles, and cover ground efficiently. We'll generate a course for Field 24, 2 tools working side by side, each covering half the field. The AI will handle navigation, turning, and spacing, leaving us free to oversee the job. Small tip: when working Courseplay with headlands, always set off the innermost vehicle first, as this reduces the possibilities of collisions when driving around. Please add a comment below if you would like to see a more in-depth tutorial in relation to AutoDrive or Courseplay, and ask the question if you have any in relation to either. With that, we're done. Every contract brings us closer to building the foundation Stonebrook needs. With AutoDrive and Courseplay working together, we're not just getting jobs done, we're building systems that'll scale with us. We'll get this equipment back to the vehicle shop, collect the contract, and head back to Stonebrook to plan our next upgrades to the homestead. At this juncture, we're going to use AutoDrive again to create a little vehicle wash area. Help keep our equipment in tip-top shape. Now that we are back at the homestead and parked up, let's start laying some ideas for the layout. Maybe look at some placeable locations and add some decoration. Make it feel like home. As we said, we were going big. Therefore, we will need the corresponding big buildings to accommodate all of our equipment. Farm Supplies Mod, created by Steve FS, allows us to cut out the need to visit the shop to pick up the likes of lime, seed, fertilizer, etc. This will all help expedite the elements of fieldwork and also allow us to use the automation elements of AutoDrive. some other potential placeables and their possible locations once we start progressing the homestead to pay for them. Now we can lay down some AutoDrive routes around here. These will probably change as we add more buildings, decorations, etc. The homestead's still bare, but now it's got purpose. Space for the machines. Room to grow. Stonebrook's starting to look like a real farm. When we said we were going big, we meant it. The tractors are here, the contracts are rolling, and the systems are falling into place. Next time, we might start shaping our own fields and prepping for production. Stonebrook Farm's future is rolling forward. One job, one system, 1 acre at a time. Okay, folks. Thanks for joining us in this episode. Don't forget to click the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave a comment if there is anything you'd like to see in this series. Until the next time, take care.